Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for attending Talented Learning's 5 Types of 2014 LMS Solutions. It's afternoon here in eastern Pennsylvania, but we have folks from Australia and from Europe dialing in early in the morning and late at night and all over the U.S. So thanks, everybody, for your continued interest here in our ongoing weekly series of 30-minute webinars. Our process for today is going to be very similar to every week. We'll follow a real tight agenda here on, in today's case, the 5 types of 2014 LMSs. We'll get into each one of these, what they are, how I define them, what are their advantages and disadvantages from an extended enterprise standpoint, primarily to use these learning management systems, but by default also an evaluation of their worthiness from an internal employee standpoint. We'll save time at the end for questions and answers. Like always, if I get verbose, which is likely, please use the question box in GoToMeeting there in your panel and submit a question. If I don't get to them in the 30 minutes, I will follow up personally with an answer to your question. So you may be asking yourself, who is Talented Learning, and John Lay for that matter, and why is he and they qualified to comment on the industry of LMSs here in 2014. And so my quick history is I got an advanced degree in instructional technology almost 20 years ago. About 14 years ago, I started selling learning management systems, and I sold for 2 of the top tier providers for 13 years, and then finally ran global sales and marketing and strategic accounts for a few years at the end of that run. And in that time, I encountered at least 500 different LMS opportunities, most of those because we were high-end learning management systems with a RFP attached to it. And so I became a student of LMS requirements and hence the business requirements that are associated with that because it was important to understand all aspects of that if you had any chance of winning in such a competitive landscape. And so in early 2014, I decided to hang up my shoes and sales shoes and become an independent analysis of the LMS marketplace, mainly because there wasn't a whole lot of commentary on it as everything shifted towards talent management and left pure learning and also extended enterprise learning in a vacuum. And so we started this in January and have built our research practice here to review almost 50 learning management systems in the last 9 months. And we're independent analysts now that look at every learning management system and the technology that's required to launch enterprise, extended enterprise initiatives. And we publish all that research in our weekly blog on talentedlearning.com, and then we also have this weekly webinar. And so our goal is to educate and help advance all aspects of extended enterprise training or non-employee training across the world, regardless of whether you're from a programming or from a business or instructional design standpoint. And so what we did in light of that is we started researching learning management systems. So as a student, it was easy to learn everything I could about the learning management systems I was selling and all the requirements and so forth. And because we were high-end, I assumed that was the sum of the requirements. But in the last 9 months, I realized that there's lots more requirements that I was invisible to, because you get used to competing for the same type and the same level of solutions, regardless of where you're at in the LMS marketplace. So I started off by doing stealth reviews. I picked popular learning management systems and I studied all the publicly available information. I read all the websites, all the case studies, all the things that they publish from YouTube, SlideShare. It's amazing what's out there from a detail standpoint. And so one by one I started going through the LMSs and collecting all this data and then posting reviews on that, but more importantly, getting it into a database so I could start to try to group like animals, which was difficult at first and still is difficult as I go through the exercise. I interviewed CEOs, executives, founders of all these organizations. I worked with their solution architects, their salespeople, their chief marketers, and reviewed all the publicly available information to get to an understanding of what's out there. I took their guided demos with their solution architect or salespeople, and then whenever they let me, I signed up for free trials and poked and prodded the system from the inside, using and trying to understand all the functionality and how it was interrelated. 9 months later, I'm 100 times smarter than I was when I started this process in terms of learning management system and what's out there. I now review almost a learning management system a day, as people all over the world are asking to get reviewed and categorized and covered from a learning management standpoint. So the education goes on, and so what I've discovered is there is 600 different LMSs, and I grouped them into 5 broad categories: Talent Suite LMSs, standalone LMSs, cloud LMSs, industry LMSs, and extended enterprise LMSs. And it was hard to just group them into 5. At one point I had a list of about the 15 types of 2014 LMSs, and I probably could accurately do that, because you might say, well, what about content or video LMSs or social or mobile or gamify, e-commerce, next gen? And we hear all these different terms for the types of learning management systems that are out there. But what I did in this exercise is I tried to, just like nature or biology taxonomy, I tried to start with as few main categories as I could. And really, video and social and mobile, they all belong in each one of the categories to some degree. So trying to take it at its highest level, I came up with those 5. Now let's peel into each one of these 5 and see what they are and how they're different, and help make some sense out of this mess of 2014. So the Talent Suite LMSs are the old guard LMSs. They've been around forever. Any of you that have been in the industry as long as me or longer knows all the names of the LMSs that were originally here: Plateau, SerpPoint, Saba, SumTotal, Click2Learn, Learn.com, GeoLearning. They were all the LMSs that were popular a decade ago, and up to 5 and even 3 years ago as all-purpose learning management systems. They were the first ones. But they were acquired over the last 3 years by the major HR providers and Talent Suite providers, and basically those two, HR and Talent Suite providers, that integrated them into a broader set of HR or talent products or solutions. And so instead of just being a company that has LMS as the focus or learning as the focus, they're now integrated into much broader suites that may have up to 10 or 20 or more different interlocking components, from everything from recruiting and so forth. And as a result, they lost focus on learning. Not 100%, but you lose focus if you're spreading your knowledge and your research and development across so many different products. And so since the LMS is very strong to begin with, it's not something that you perceive in the short run, but something that you perceive over a longer haul. And where you're seeing it now is that the Talent Suite LMSs are behind in the new modern things of mobile, social learning, gamification, even e-commerce to an extent, business to business and business to consumer e-commerce. They have some of these features, but they just haven't been innovating like some of the other providers we'll get here to here in a second. And the other thing is that the Talent Suite LMS providers are expensive. They started they were the big boys long ago, and so they established a price level for an LMS seat, and that's pretty much held true even with the migration from perpetual to annual licenses. They've held the value of the seat, and that seat or that active license is the same really regardless if you're an internal employee or whether you're an extended enterprise person. And so as a result, or extended enterprise learner, and as a result, it tends to get expensive in a hurry, especially for extended enterprise applications where you may have low frequency but high volume of users, or a high number of potential users but unknown amount of actual usage until after it happens. Who are the top Talent Suite LMS competitors? It's all the names that we know of now. So Oracle, who bought Learn.com, SAP bought SuccessFactors, who bought Plateau, Info bought SerpPoint, IBM generally built it from the ground up themselves. Skillsoft recently acquired SumTotal, who acquired at least a dozen different organizations to create their suite of products. Saba and Cornerstone are in a group by themselves. in the sense that they belong in this category and also the cloud category, because their systems are homegrown from the ground up, interlocking products that are tighter than any of the other organizations because they conceived it and developed it and have not lost their focus on learning, and learning being one of the key pillars of how they win business. You don't typically see them penetrating in compensation or recruiting as a first step, though they certainly can. The advantages of Talent Suite LMSs is that historically they had strong extended enterprise capabilities, domain segmentation, even e-commerce, but because they got integrated into the Talent Suites, all the effort from a research and development standpoint was always about integrating the user experience, the data experience across all those different products for the last 2 or 3 years. And as a result, the E part of the product suite has really stalled. However, they have massive R&D, unlimited budgets, and it can just be a matter of time and awareness that they're going to start focusing, especially with their own client base, of trying to capture extended enterprise of customer learning and channel or distributor learning. They also have the advantage of being the incumbent HR and having C-level connections. So I just heard of an organization recently that had the Oracle LMS forced on them without the learning organization having any influence in the decision. At a much higher level, the full suite or a suite was purchased and LMS was thrown in as part of the bargain. And so just like that, you can find yourself on a Talent LMS, which isn't the worst thing in the world, but it's sure not as nice as identifying your requirements and selecting the best solution for yourself. The disadvantages is that the license models, as I mentioned before, are too pricey for extended enterprise and even for internal learning. If you were a Geo Learning or a Learn.com customer, which were lower priced SaaS solutions, then getting incorporated into these behemoth companies that are global and huge and thousands of clients, it's easy to get lost in that big pond and now all of a sudden be paying way too much than you ever signed up for. There's also the disadvantages of the limited learning innovation, the spreading out of resources across a dozen of products, and just the integrated internal nature of a talent suite is all about employees. And so the extended enterprise is always just a different audience and really only applicable from the learning perspective. So unless these organizations see a huge upside to incorporating extended enterprise into their solutions, it's easy to let it go by the wayside. The next group is the standalone LMSs. And standalone LMSs decided that you don't need an integrated talent suite to be successful in the world from a learning management standpoint. And so while all the naysayers or all the analysts all rushed for the door of learning and everything is now talent management, there's a whole industry that decided that we could just integrate with the couple of key components of performance or talent that we need to versus to try to compete with these broad suite of products. And those type of companies are the standalone. They used to be the tier 2 LMSs. Now they're the tier 1 LMSs, at least in my opinion. They command the most complex projects. And so when you need, when you have global usage and a high number of usage or high bandwidth, these are the most established businesses. They've seen it all. They've got solutions across multiple industries. Usually they're very or rather very agnostic when it comes to an industry standpoint. And so they try to develop, very similar to the old school LMSs, the old guard LMSs, they develop a solution that can be used essentially by anybody with configuration. They're experts at LMS, they're experts at learning, they have deep professional services groups. So they have professionals like everybody on this call that has been in learning and development, that has deployed systems, that has created e-learning content, and they leverage that knowledge as part of the partnership and really as a unique proposition to some of the other vendors. On the one side, the talent suite, where you can't afford that level of consulting if you're a smaller organization, or the cloud side where they just don't have, as we'll get into in a second. They also provide managed services, so things like creating e-learning content, managing the help desk, even doing administrative tasks for clients. So they're very full service organizations. They are great at solution selling. They find the problem. They're great at winning RFPs, And they're also a very viable solution for your internal and your extended enterprise audiences. Standalone LMSs will penetrate an organization on either side of that equation. They're happy to do just internal, they're happy to do just the customers and channel or members, but ideally they like to sell on both sides and create an equitable license model to encompass as many learners in the entire enterprise, including extended enterprise, as they can. Some of the best competitors here are Expertis, Absorb, WBT Systems, NetDimensions, eLogic Learning, Latitude Learning. I just spent some time here recently with the CEO and also a technical person from KMI Learning, and just impressed with their standalone capabilities and the breadth of their solution. That's not just technology, but it's really a handshake between technology and the services that they provide. The neat thing about not maybe the neat thing, but the interesting thing about standalone LMS competitors is that they very rarely will have a brand new account. Almost always, 90% I would say, are stolen from each other or from the Talent Suite LMSs as they come off their long-term contracts that they signed years ago. So they're all experts at being somebody's second, third, and fourth LMS. So the smarter you are as a customer and a more experienced you are as a customer and the downfalls of LMSs and the pitfalls that you've experienced in the past, the more these type of organizations float to the top of your critical needs or want list, because they've also experienced all those same things and have mitigated them in their products. They're full-featured, the advantages. They're full-featured. They have industry experience in extended enterprise. They've got those consulting groups. They're usually not public organizations, so they're very friendly license agreements. Very commonly, it's hard to even find out what their license prices are. They don't put them on their website because it's all solution-based. It's all based on the problem that you have and the opportunity and the level of the solution and how much value, and then they price accordingly to that in many cases. They are internal employee incumbents, so if you are looking to expand into channel and customer learning and member learning in your extended enterprise, and you have a standalone as your internal LMS, then it's a real nice, easy leap to start opening up portals for these external customers and leveraging the existing infrastructure and license agreements that you have. The disadvantage is that they can still be expensive, because if it is your first in LMS or you haven't really proven your business case yet, you need implementation services, a substantial license. So it's not like you just get into the game for 10K and tip your toe into it and see if it works. So you either have to have an LMS business case already approved, or, as I said, you're migrating from another one. Otherwise, it's going to seem relatively expensive to other solutions that are out in the marketplace. They also have longer-term tracks. They also have a little bit of historical baggage. So depending on some of these standalone competitors, they've been around for a while. They've got historical versions. They started off on or behind the firewall on-premise, and they're migrating that now, trying to migrate to varying degrees of mobile, social, and gamification support, though most of them are catching up now and have caught up in those areas. These are all areas that they're a little bit behind the next group, which is the cloud LMSs. So the cloud LMSs, they're born in the last 5 years. They're the most exciting type, I think, of LMSs in the industry. They've got a unique business model on how they approach a lot of things that's just different from how I did it for 13 years and how so many organizations made a living. And I'll get into that in just a second. They have a basic feature set, meaning that they're not as full-featured as any of the standalones, but they're all based on the E part of things. So they're typically behind on instructor-led training or conference management or things that are more traditional LMS, but they're further ahead on just the modern stuff of being more social, mobile, fully mobily responsive, so that you can use it on any device, any platform. Because they were born in the cloud, they don't have the disadvantages of all the long in the tooth systems that were born outside of the cloud and had to migrate themselves into the cloud and reverse engineer a lot of their product to make that happen. Cloud LMS has got to skip all that. And as a result, they have the most exciting feature set. They have the concept of connectors, where they can extend their application to any other cloud application. One of my favorites is Docebo. They have the ability to connect like 25 different systems just with a flip of the switch. So you want to connect to Big Blue Button or WebEx or GoToMeeting or your CRM system or Salesforce. It's just a checkbox, and you pay an extra so-and-so a month or so-and-so a year for that service. It's really exciting on how easy they've made it, and as a result, they can extend their applications so rapidly, exponentially fast by taking that approach, and it's all figured out inside the cloud right now, so you can share interfaces and integrate it right into the application and make cloud LMSs just an outstanding choice for extended enterprise applications and internal LMS applications. Here are the list of cloud LMS competitors. I could probably do 44 slides on this as I do the new LMS review every day that I'm scheduling with organizations around the world. 95% of them, 99% of them are falling into this category now. I don't think anybody does it the old-fashioned way. Everybody's creating multi-tenant, meaning one code base, all your clients are on it, and you're in a subscription basis or a consumption use basis. People pay for just what they use, and these are all the top competitors. If you notice, Saba and Cornerstone have showed up again here because they're the only talent LMS suite providers that are pure multi-tenant cloud. They fall into both categories, and for that matter, a lot of organizations could fall into a couple categories here with just 5 high-level categories. But they're the 2 unique organizations and ones that I continue to keep my eye on because I do believe that their ability to provide a talent suite but also be pure cloud and still be 100% focused or primarily focused on learning gives them a unique value proposition in the industry. The advantages of cloud LMSs: they're easy to set up, lightning fast, they're designed for the marketing aspects of learning. They've got marketing built into them, CRM systems built into them, advanced grouping and social and mobile and notifications. I was just reviewing Administrate today, which is a great cloud LMS provider. It's just like MailChimp. In fact, they integrate with MailChimp. But you can just see all the emails that you sent out from a notification standpoint, who's clicked on them, who's read on, what action they took from those emails, to really see the effectiveness of the marketing aspects of extended enterprise training, of getting voluntary users to come and consume content and even pay for content. Cloud LMS providers are cheap from a license standpoint. Like the most expensive ones might be $10,000 or $20,000 a year for unlimited use license, unlimited users. It's fantastic. So if you have an extended enterprise where you might have 100 or 200 or 500,000 potential users, cloud LMSs are outstanding because you can create records for all those users, but only pay when the users log into the system and take defined aspects, making it a great way to not sink $100,000 or $500,000 into a solution before you sell your first piece of content. The disadvantages is if your audience isn't homogeneous or things aren't straightforward, it's easy to get in over your head. I work in a lot of these cloud LMSs where I'm trying to figure things out on my own, and I would think that out of the world I've got to be in the top 10 of people that play in different LMSs for a living. And still, for me, it's challenging to figure out how to do all the things and to understand those concepts. And so it would be challenging for people to have complex organizational structures or anything complex because there's not a whole lot of help behind that. Some guidance, but not a whole lot of planning or strategic advice. So if you are on your 3rd or 4th LMS and you don't have you have a very heterogeneous, complex or integrated type solution, cloud LMSs most likely aren't there yet, and they're also behind a lot of the traditional stuff. There's also the concept of extended enterprise. This is where they ignore internal employees 100%. There is no internal employee training. There's no concept of manager or skills and competencies. It's all focused on functions or solutions in the marketplace. There is a lot in this group. This is one of my favorite groups because I love extended enterprise. I've been doing it for almost 20 years now. And this group is going after that elusive group because you have crossovers. That's why I call people that are internal HR trainers and then they get responsibility for extended enterprise. They're like crossovers. So they got to come out of their comfort zone and get into that marketing mindset, marketing plus training mindset. But probably 75% of organizations, it's separate. It's driven by customers and channel owners or customer service or your consulting group. It's your externally facing groups, marketing, operations, that decide that training their customers or channel is a good idea, and then they try to figure out what they need. And if they try to come into the HR world, they get clobbered over the head with 600 LMSs. They don't even know what an LMS is. And so it's very challenging if you're not in HR training to understand any of this speak. And so all these LMSs approach it from that standpoint of trying to approach it if you were an operations person or you were a CEO, and their solutions are so targeted and so integrated with marketing and with those marketing communication and blogging and social concepts to target those groups. There's countless organizations that focus on continuing education, customer, channel, distributor trading, can't get that word out today, sales development. They come at it from all these different angles and have a solution. A lot of times the solution might not even be their own. It could be something that they bought or purchased and are white labeling and are just bringing their content. They're targeted entry-level solutions. They're great because they're not expensive. I don't think they have a whole lot of disadvantages. If you're looking to get in the game and extended enterprise, an extended enterprise LMS is going to do it inexpensively, and you're going to buy a solution that was designed to do exactly that, and you'll get the experience they have. And then finally, there's a very similar category, the industry LMSs. They also don't necessarily make their own LMS. They do, some do, but a lot of them just leverage. But what they do is they sell to a particular industry. They usually come from that industry, the founders and the originators, so they bring a whole lifelong experience of operating, training and development, certification, continuing education in any industry. We see some of the most popular industries are finance, insurance, healthcare, but really every industry. There's LMSs that are focused on the mining, pulp, and paper industry. You name it, there's industry LMSs that are focused, and they bring content, they bring expertise, they bring research into that area, and they can be comprised of associations, educational outreaches, even for-profit training organizations all fall under these industry LMSs. You can't go wrong buying an industry LMS, I don't think. I think that it doesn't have the horsepower of the other LMSs, but if you're on your first or second LMS, it's nice to know that what you're buying is proven in other organizations that are similar to yours, maybe even competitors, that you can use to get in the game and to start tracking and enjoying the benefits, whether that be for internal employees or for extended enterprise. Here are just some examples. Google some of these. It's fun just to go look at their LMSs, and because they are customer facing, a lot of times you can sign up for trial accounts and get a feel for extended enterprise learning from some of the best, the folks that sell these high-end certifications. They're targeted. They're a total solution. They're what you need. A lot of times they're focused for internal and external enterprise. They can be very simple. They can be like HealthStream can support the most complex of all healthcare scenarios in the world. So there's a lot of diversity in this category, as in all categories. I also like industry LMSs. I don't think it's a bad decision to go with one of those, and I think you can get a lot of mileage out of it by not reinventing the wheel. They are a step behind in technology. I also have to say, so what to that? It's fun to be on the cutting and bleeding edge. It's also fun to be a couple steps behind that and let somebody else take all that pain. And that's what I think industry LMSs are. To be good, though, they have to have the capability to allow these healthcare organizations or these different organizations to host their own proprietary content. You have some that only host their own content, like training companies, but then you can quickly outgrow those. The best solutions also provide an option, a premium option for organizations to host their own content so they can get the full benefits of an internal and an external and a proprietary and an off-the-shelf learning management system. So the conclusion, there's 5 types of LMSs, maybe 25 types, but regardless of what type it is, I think you can find a great LMS in every type. I think it all depends on your current situation, your incumbent vendor, your contract situation. All those things will lead you to better or worse choice based on your particular scenario. It's very important to define your requirements from a functional, a technical, professional service, an ongoing business relationship standpoint to help sort through which organizations are going to be the best. If you require a lot of professional services, well, then it's real easy to cross out a lot of the cloud providers and start to narrow down your search that way. But I think it's important, and not just because I'm an LMS consultant and an independent analyst, but there's a handful of us out there across the country and the world. But really, I don't see how you could go wrong by hiring a consultant to help you define these requirements and sort through the 600 vendors to get to a short list, so that you can just focus on reviewing vendors that are a match across those 4 different and 5 different types of requirements. And finally, the last thought of today is no LMS is good for everyone, but every LMS is good for someone, and I firmly believe that after 13 years of selling and 9 months of independent review, everybody has their unique value proposition, and they're looking for a very specific type of client that if they find, both will be very successful. And I think if you do your homework from a requirement standpoint and a research standpoint, you got a good chance to maximize your success. So that is the conclusion of today. 31, there's a few questions here, and I'll follow up by email since we're over. Tune in next week. We're going to talk about social learning and LMSs. With the same research process, I've documented what every LMS has from a social learning standpoint and how they support social learning, and I've grouped and categorized that, and we'll talk about that next week and get you smart on that particular topic. So thanks for listening, and hope to see you soon. Thank you. Please reach out with any questions.